So we were doing PFPs. It was like 2 hours before the deadline, and we were doing PFPs. And my buddy Nick, the manager from our high A team, like pointed at him, and he was like, I was like, "Ooh, you just got traded, bro!" Like, talking smack. And then um, he goes down the tunnel, and they tell him or whatever, and then he comes back down and points like that at me. And then I did one of these where I was like turned around, and then I pointed at me, and he started shaking his head. I was like, dang, like I wonder where I'm going next. Because I was like, that was a big thing. I was always giving my friends on the Mets crap. I was like, yo, you guys are so gone. Like, you guys are traded, like all this stuff. And it ended up being me.
All right, guys, welcome back into another episode of To the Show We Go Baseball podcast. Today's episode, we're dipping into the San Francisco Giants system. It might be our first Giant of the offseason. I might have your guy Christian Koss on at some point this offseason. He's a good dude to chat with, but I got Carson Seymour on today, and he's one of the newest members on the San Francisco Giants 40-man roster, and I'm going to get into that a little bit. I like to get some boring questions out of the way first before we jump to some off-the-field things that are a little more exciting. But Carson, just want to ask you, I know you're back home right now in the offseason, but what have you been up to so far?
Well, I just got married this offseason in November. So I've been married for about a month and a half now. And so now I get to call my wife's name is Sydney, so I call her my wife. So it's kind of nice instead of saying fiance, girlfriend, and get all mixed up, whatever it is. So I just call her my wife now. So that's nice. Yeah, I've just been well, this is the first season, our off season, I've really like worked because I had my signing bonus, which was nice, and then they kind of deferred that payment. So now I actually have to work. So I'm doing lessons at one of the local facilities out here in Kansas City called Mac and Sites. So that's actually where I'm at right now. So I think I have a lesson at 3:30, and then I got to run the high school program tonight because the head pitching guys I think something happened with our weight. Like we got a new weight room, so he has to coach in the weight room tonight. So I'm running the show tonight. No big deal there. And yeah, so I've just been training here in the morning and then working at night, helping these high school kids out here in Kansas City.
All right, first off, I want to say congrats on getting married. I, as well, just got married this offseason. So
Awesome. Congrats to you.
I know exactly the process and how big that was. And it's still weird to call her my wife. I've been married 2 months now. I think it's been about, a little over two. Time kind of flies a little bit. It's a little weird still having to put on the ring every morning because, our wives have been used to it for the last however long you were engaged, but now we got to keep remembering the ring
For sure.
in the ring box. But so you're in Kansas City right now. Is that where you call home in the off season?
So we moved around a few times. Sydney and I, we started off my first off season. She was still in school. We both went to K-State, so Kansas State and in Manhattan. And my parents had I think they had a midlife crisis or something. So they bought a house. I grew up in California, and I don't know. They just followed me around, I guess. So they bought a house in Manhattan. So it ended up working out good. Like Sydney was finishing up school, and I got drafted in 21, and then that off season going into 2022, I worked out at the K-State facility, kind of just trained over there with the guys, and then the next off season we moved to California, so I trained out at Boris, where my agency has like a facility and stuff. So I was like, all right, like I'll just move out there, try it out, see what it is. And of course, Sydney loves California, but it's a little pricey. And then last off season, Sydney started working in Arizona, so I was like, all right, this works out good. Scottsdale, that's where the Giants are at. So trained at the facility out there, and then we ended up getting a dog last off season. His name is Goose, and we had an apartment. It's like kind of annoying, just like taking him out every hour. So we're like, all right, we need to get maybe a backyard or a house, and we're like, all right. At that time, my parents moved back to California, so it was like, okay, maybe we go to California. And they're like looking at rent and whatever, and it's like, all right, well, we don't make that much money, so Kansas City is where we ended up because Sydney's from Kansas City, so it worked out good, and her family's out here, so we see them every weekend basically, and the dog's happy, so that works, and it's a little cheaper to live out here for sure.
Yeah, I got a ton of love for. I guess you might be talking about the Kansas side of Kansas City, but I grew up in St. Louis. I lived in Missouri, went to University of Missouri. So I have nothing but love for the Midwest and the state of Missouri. Not so much the Kansas side. I apologize. I'm not too fond of our guys in Lawrence over there, but I don't have any problems with our guys in Manhattan. So I think
Okay, that's good.
we're good on that front. It's
Yeah,
just
for
the
sure.
Jayhawks, man. Not a fan.
I guess we
Um,
can unite on that one because I'm not a
there we
fan of the
go.
Jayhawks either.
There we go. All right. So I do want to get into it. Just a little bit about your 2024. Obviously, you've had a very, we kind of talked about a little bit. Your off season's been, I mean, pretty hectic, but in a good way. Obviously getting married, getting added to the 40 man. So now that you're officially added to the 40 man, has it kind of like sunk in yet that, you have a shot in this next spring training of making the big league club out of camp?
For sure. I mean, last year I got not like the non-roster invite, and I was like, "Oh, I can make the team out of spring training." Like, like super confident in myself, but then you don't really like at now knowing what I know now, it's like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much like the business side of baseball is kind of crazy." And I was like, not in for it in a bad way, but it was like definitely a little humbling. We are like, "All right, well, I got to strap it on, have a good season, whatever." And make do with what I have. But it was definitely a good experience that first spring training. But now it's like, all right, like not necessarily free game, but it's like, you now there's a better opportunity to maybe try and make a roster now that you're on the 40-man roster.
Yeah, and obviously, you spending this past year in AAA and pitching out in the PCL, which is I got a couple questions about that later on. I know the PCL is very hitter friendly and the ball absolutely flies out there. So I do have a few questions about that later on, but obviously you pitched this year in Sacramento and you got your feet wet in the AAA level here. What kind of things did you learn about yourself this year? Were you working on anything? I guess what were some of the takeaways from 2024?
Yeah, 2024, it was one of those seasons that was like not necessarily up and down, but it'd be like some really good starts, like back to back to back, and then all of a sudden a little bump, and it's like, all right, now you got to go back to the wheel, kind of see what we did wrong. And honestly, like this season, I just didn't feel completely timed up like the whole the whole year. Like there'd be outings where I'm like, all right, I'm good, I feel on time, and then other times you're like, wow, what is going on? Like I don't, and it was obviously a little different too because we fly everywhere and like in the lower levels you're just riding the bus. Well, by the way, I love the bus rides. Like there's
You
nothing better than
do.
riding the bus. Yeah. So that was a little different, and obviously the PCL is elevated, and that's like part of it, but it's not. I throw my majority sinkers, so it's like, all right, well, hopefully you just get a bunch of ground balls today. Maybe they'll lift one or two, but for the most part, it's just trying to keep the ball on the ground. And yeah, so it's definitely learning. I would say the hitters have a compared to Double A, their approach is like it's pretty personalized hitter to hitter versus like when you're in the Eastern League playing Double A and like facing all these prospects, they're just really talented, And I wouldn't say like raw, they're definitely more than raw, but it's just like all right, they're going for it, they're swinging for the fences, and the approach is definitely more refined in Triple A, and that's like the biggest thing that kind of cat and mouse game, noticing that and just adjusting to that as well.
I always find it fascinating too, just being around AAA clubhouses. It's so much different than being in a AA clubhouse. And as in, you're sharing a locker room now with guys that have MLB experience and guys that you could be sitting right next to a pitcher who pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays for the last 6 years or whatever it was, and then you have guys like yourself that are brand new and they're still coming up. And did you have any instances this year where you either, whether it was like a throwing partner or if you just had a locker by a vet that somebody that had made their debut, and did you get a chance to like pick any brains or anything like that with any of the veterans on the team?
Honestly, like our team in Sacramento was pretty young. I would say like I think our oldest guy was 30, maybe like at the end 32, but there wasn't a whole lot of guys. Like I know Johnny Cueto was on a few teams that we played, so that would have been like kind of cool, like experiencing that. But I had a I had a good catch play partner. His name's Spencer Howard, so he has some big league time, and yeah, we just I mean, we talk for a little bit and throw and like just do a bunch of like mobility work and just not necessarily like talk about baseball a whole lot, but just it was just like a good, I guess, a good friend for the season. And I like obviously have my buddies that I went up through the Giants organization with, and like not necessarily a whole lot of veterans though, I would say. Like some guys with a little bit of showtime, not nothing like hanging out with a Johnny Cueto or something like that. But yeah, it was still a good experience because then you ask them like, okay, what does it take? What is it like? All this stuff, and they're probably like, all right, shut up, kid, like whatever. But for the most part, a lot of the guys were still young, and like it wasn't necessarily like a big like age gap or an experience gap. So everyone like on our team at least seemed like we were pretty hungry to just like grind it out and do our best.
Yeah, I always like asking that question, just because I was hanging around Buffalo this past year, the Blue Jays AAA, and they obviously had a guy named Joey Votto that was just, hanging around their clubhouse, and he was electric when he was out in the field, and I don't know, it's just I know all those guys kind of gravitated towards him, and obviously Joey Votto, possibly a Hall of Famer in the
For
future. I know
sure.
that's like a weird example to use, but there are guys like that, like the Jake Farias and other guys like that out in around minor league. But you mentioned that you're sinker heavy, and I do find it fascinating sometimes to talk to guys in other organizations. And I know that I've talked to guys in the Red Sox system, the Yankees system, Minnesota, and they all talk about that their pitching development has them learn a certain pitch, or they want them to focus on adding in a sweeper, whatever it is. For the Giants, is there anything? Is there any pitches, I guess, that they wanted you to learn whenever you entered the organization, or was there a focus this year that they wanted you to rely more on the sinker, or I guess, or how was that this past year?
I think the Giants do a really good job of kind of personalize like they already know the stuff you have, and I was with the Mets, and originally I got drafted by the Mets and got traded over in 2022, and the Mets and the Giants were a little different. Like the Mets were kind of heavy on the four seam up. Like I don't know if that trend's necessarily dying, but like I think with the Giants especially, it's like, all right, this is your these are your best pitches. Like you should throw these more often than not. Like stick to what you're good at, and then if we need to add an extra pitch or increase the usage on some things, then we definitely will. And they're getting me to start throwing my changeup more, and I think that's something that I've been really focusing on this off season, and also just towards the end of the year started to throw it more and kind of trusting that pitch because sometimes I'll throw it like it's more of a harder changeup than a changeup like a traditional changeup that's like 10 off. So it's like trying to figure out when to throw it, how to throw it, and just working with my pitching coach and working out in bullpens and stuff and figuring it all out.
You had just brought up obviously the trade, and it's been a couple years now since you were traded. How long did that take you to get truly settled into the Giant system?
Honestly, it was like pretty seamless because I got traded over with my roommate Nick's Walk, and so we were like two peas in a pod, Like obviously we're two different personalities for sure, but it was like I already had a built-in buddy, so we would just hang out all the time. But it was like I got traded in like in high A, so everyone else there is like doing the same thing we were doing in Brooklyn, and just kind of it was more seamless than not, but it definitely like didn't rock my world, but it was like, whoa, like they talk about you like some guy in high A for like some then all the way up. The GM's talking about you trading you, and like you're just not a piece of meat in a bad way, but you're kind of are just like just a body. So it's kind of cool to think about it like that, but also like working right into the Giants org, and it was pretty easy.
Yeah, it's did you have any interesting story? Like I always find it so like so funny that some minor leaguers are just like, yeah, I either found out from the Jeff Passan tweet or it was like something else. Like, did you have any weird story like that?
Well, so we were doing PFPs. It was like 2 hours before the deadline, and we were doing PFPs. And my buddy Nick, the manager from our high A team, like pointed at him, and he was like, I was like, "Ooh, you just got traded, bro!" Like, talking smack, and then um he goes down the tunnel, and they tell him or whatever, and then he comes back down and points like that at kind of at me, and then I did one of these where I was like turned around, and then I pointed at me, and he started shaking his head. I was like, "Dang, like I wonder where I'm going next," because I was like, that was a big thing. I was always giving my friends on the Mets crap. I was like, "Yo, you guys are so gone. Like you guys are traded. Like all this stuff," and it ended up being me. But yeah, so we were doing PFPs. I got pulled out of the PFP line, and they're like, "Hey, you just got traded to the Giants. You have 1 hour to get your stuff, and then you're out of here." And I was like, okay, like that's it. Like, where am I going? And so we ended up like, so we got traded, didn't go to the game. We had to pack up our apartment in Coney Island, and then they shipped us from New York City to Spokane, Washington. So we met the Emeralds on the road, and it was
I
kind of
al-
different. It was kind of different too, because like our team, we had really talented players, but we didn't have a whole lot of offense. Like at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of offense, and like we got to the Eugene team, and it was just like loaded with a bunch of guys, and like they were scoring runs, and Nick and I were going crazy. We were like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And they were just like, "Who are these kids?" Like, yeah, this is what we do. We're still like 65-10, and I was like, "Oh, so it's okay." Just kind of sat there, but it was really cool.
you know what's also interesting is I feel like in the Met system, all of their teams are kind of like in a little like belt there on the East Coast, and then you go to the Giant system, and you gotta go from Spokane all the way to Richmond, and then to Sacramento. You're racking up the mileage if you're getting called up or sent down. I think I saw a thing that the Giants had the most miles between like affiliates on. If you started at low, or I guess in the complex, and had to make your way up through the majors, you're traveling the farthest because you got to go across the country.
Yeah, so it's the high A teams in Eugene, Oregon, which is like not bad because I think low A's in San Jose. So you go to Eugene, which is probably like maybe 7 hour drive. I don't know. Up the coast a little bit, and but then yeah, I didn't get called up mid season from high A, so I kind of just went from spring training in 2023 to Richmond, which wasn't bad. But like yeah, those guys, if you get called up and like go place to place, especially well, one of our guys, Eldridge, he went from I think he started in San Jose this year. I don't know. He went from San Jose to Eugene to Richmond, and then he finished the season in Sacramento. So he was just going back and forth, basically, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I saw that one. They did. I think it was Baseball America or something did it, and I was like, man, you guys are really, really traveling and racking up the miles there. If you're getting called up mid-season, man, good luck on driving your car across to
Yeah.
get there. But okay, I got one more baseball related question. I'm going to jump into some things off the field. It's your first spring training coming up as a member of the 40-man roster, and like we said before, you have a shot to make it out of camp. What kind of things are you looking forward to? I know you last offseason you got an NRI, so you kind of got a little taste of being around the big league guys and just seeing what they do. But now that you're a 40-man guy, what kind of things are you looking forward to in this upcoming spring training?
I think there's just more of like a level of comfort there, where it's like you were, I mean, non-roster guys are just like your number. I mean, it'll probably still be like a really high number, but it was like number 88. Um, so like it's kind of fun, but then I think it's just a level of comfort and knowing the facility, knowing who's around, and like now you kind of know the established big leaguers a little bit. I wasn't there to really meet like all of them because I was only there for a couple of weeks, but like this time around, it's just kind of hoping to just stay a little longer, and hopefully make it out of spring training. But yeah, I think it's just get being a little more comfortable at the stadium, and kind of just knowing everything, and working hard.
All right, Carson, we're getting to the point where I'm switching to another thing here. It's life before the pros. So we're going to get to know you a little bit before you got into the Mets and the Giant system here. I like to start it off with a very easy slash generic question, but who got you into baseball?
Definitely my dad. I don't like he never really played like he played his freshman year of high school, and he kind of stopped playing, and he was like he's the smallest guy. He was the smallest guy or something, didn't play, so he's like, all right, I'm done. And then like not necessarily quit, he just didn't try out again in his sophomore, like the rest of high school. So he started doing like swimming and water polo, and then he got like my dad's huge. He's like 6'5". Like he still probably beat me up. Well, I don't know, not anymore. Now that I'm a little older, but like well, Christmas I lifted him up, or yesterday, or I don't know. I saw him the other day, and I lifted him up, and was like, oh, I could take him easy. But like he's a big guy, so he started doing that, and then I don't know. That's just like growing up in California. It's just one of those things where it's like I don't know if it changed, but definitely like I stopped playing other sports in seventh grade. I only played baseball, and like I tried football. I was like, I don't like this at all. Like I don't get yelled at, tackling, whatever. Like I don't know. It's just I guess not in my nature to. Oh, well, I should have played quarterback, but I started too late. It doesn't matter there. But yeah, so my dad and I just like loved baseball. We watched the Angels. I watched the Angels growing up. Like I didn't miss a game for a while, and then they signed Albert Pujols, and then I don't know. I just kind of lost a little bit of hope in the team and all that stuff. So kind of stopped being a fan once I started playing more and more. And yeah, my dad and I we tried growing up. We tried to go to a stadium every summer. So I think we finished at 20. Once I got to like high school, it was kind of harder and harder because of summer ball and stuff. So we're at 20. We actually saw Mark Burley's perfect game, which was really
Ooh.
cool. That's like the best game we've been to. I think my favorite stadium is Fenway. Like it's pretty cool. And I do like Oracle Park though. Like it's definitely in my top five as a fan to go see a game there, and PNC. Kind of the newer stadiums are really cool. So yeah, that's kind of it. It was just my dad and I. He's a firefighter, so every day he didn't have work in elementary school. He'd just wait because my elementary school was on a hill, and there's like a park down below with a baseball field. He'd just wait for me in his car, and we'd go hit balls on the field and take grounders and do a bunch of stuff when he wasn't working. So worked out pretty good. Well, except I'm not a hitter, but he's still bummed about that too. That I'm not a hitter. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, Dad. Like just didn't work out. Wasn't in the cards. I'm sorry.
When did you have that realization that it was like, hey, the pitching thing's my thing. Like I gotta give up the bat.
I honestly I didn't start pitching until I wasn't getting recruited as a hitter for college. So my senior year is when I really started focusing on pitching. And but I knew when I was a freshman in high school that I wasn't going to be a good hitter. So just stuck it out as long as I could. And then I was like, all right, well, I'll just hop on the mound. I always had a good arm from like third base and stuff. So my dad's like, well, why don't you pitch? I was like, okay, I'll pitch, like whatever. And then ended up working out pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think he chose the right path there. It sounds like he might be the one though that's upset that the DH rule is no longer a thing.
Yeah,
Whenever you
for
do.
sure. For sure.
Uh, so you grew up in Cali and you went to high school out in California. I just had to I had to take a peek at where Great Oak High School is because I wasn't too familiar with that part of California. But it seems like you were right in between San Diego and LA. Is that like kind of like a halfway point between the
Yeah,
two?
that's pretty accurate. We're a little closer to San Diego. But yeah, it's more inland than anything. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's just the suburbs, like people it's I guess well now I haven't been back in a long time, but it's like getting pretty big. Like the population's definitely grown a lot. But like at the time it was kind of just like a place where you lived, and then parents, if they worked, would commute to work either in San Diego or LA or Orange County. So it's yeah, it's just like kind of a middle ground. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of good baseball players out there. Andy Thomas, he was with us on the Giants for a while. He actually just got Rule 5 drafted to the Padres. So he's from Marietta. A lot of guys.
Yeah, I was gonna ask it too because I was like showing a little bit of love to obviously where you grew up and kind of the place that made you who you are. But obviously California is a pretty big baseball powerhouse. It goes with Texas and Georgia's and Florida's of the world. But so how was the competition growing up? Like who did I guess kind of walk me through how what kind of competition you stacked up against. Obviously you were just talking about some guys from the area, but yeah, I'm sure a lot of pros come from that, I guess, area in between the two. But I guess walk me through how the competition was.
I mean, it was always I was, especially as a hitter, I was always like pretty overmatched. I remember one time we had to my junior year, we played Hunter Green, like, and he was throwing 97. He was a junior too, and he was throwing like the hardest ball I've ever seen. I was just like, okay, well, this isn't fun. But yeah, I mean, every game, like, there's guys that were committed to USC, UCLA, like all the good California schools, and then like guys were committed to Oregon in our little high school league, like in the two towns, like that would the six high schools. There's guys committed all over the place. So like the competition was pretty good. And then going and playing like in the winter, we'd go play the Orange County teams that are like the private schools. So the private schools have all the guys that are going to like USC, UCLA, and you're just like, oh geez, like where do I fit into this mix, you know? So um, but yeah, the competition was really good. And I think just like playing a lot and like experiencing and like playing with guys at different tournaments, if I was on like a different team or like went to a showcase or something, and just like seeing what it took, I guess, from my perspective, is like, dang, that guy's like a lot better than me. I gotta keep getting better. So just like, I guess that kind of drove me too, just to try to be the best person, best player I could be.
I knew California was a different beast when I had CJ Culpepper on the show earlier this offseason, and he grew up in Rancho Cucamonga. I think I'm saying that
Yeah,
right.
Rancho Cucamonga, yeah.
Cucamonga, there it is. And he hit me with, oh, yeah, CJ Stroud went to my high school, and he didn't even start until his junior year because we just had all these other freak athletes in every sport that just like all up and down the lineup. And it's just like CJ Stroud, the starting quarterback of the Texans right now, went to your high school. He couldn't even get the starting job until his junior year. It's just crazy. He would have been a 4-year star. I mean, I went to a small high school in Southern Illinois, so he would have been the best player in the state of Illinois, probably. But all right, so I want to jump to your college journey. I find it very interesting that you started off at Dartmouth and then you ended up at K State. So I do want to ask, how does a kid from California end up at Dartmouth?
Just being really smart. No, I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I mean I'll do it.
No, so uh it just kind of worked out that way. Like, I started pitching later in my high school career, and I think, I mean, my perfect game, I was like top, like the hardest I threw was 85, you know. I was a good student, like, I mean, good enough. And then my ACT score, I got a 29, so also just good enough to get, like, get the athlete boost at Dartmouth. And they were honestly the only school that like recruited me. Like, there's a couple schools like in California, they're like, oh, you could be a walk-on. And I was like, oh, I like, okay, maybe if it like all doesn't work out. But I was like, like, I'll just go to Dartmouth, like, get a good education. Like, I didn't even think about the pros at that point because I was still not like, wasn't throwing that hard, wasn't definitely not ready to be a professional by any means. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just go and we'll see what happens. And then kind of at Dartmouth, I struggled a lot, like pitching, like the whole thing. School was definitely. I mean, I went to public school. All these kids there went to like private schools, and I was like, or the schools that you can go for a year after your high school, and I was just like, I guess in shock a little bit. And it was never sunny either in the winter, so I got seasonal depression for the first time, and I was like, oh,
Welcome to New
geez.
Hampshire.
Yeah. I remember winter break coming back. I went home and it was like 72 the whole time. And then I got off the bus in New Hampshire and it was like -7 and snow to my snow to my knees. And I was like, oh geez, I don't even know what I signed up for. But no, it was really good. Like, struggled a lot, kind of learned a lot about myself, and I just started hitting the weight room really hard. Um, Honestly, just trying to compete in the weight room and like beat people because I couldn't beat them on the field at the time, and it all kind of worked out throwing wise. Like, I was just doing the right exercises, and kind of by the end of my freshman year there, I hit 95 for the first time, and I was like, okay, like that's cool, like whatever, I'll go play summer ball. And then so basically year by year at the Ivy Leagues, they base their the tuition on your parents' income, and my dad being a firefighter was working like there was fires that season or that October, and also he was working he said he worked almost a full year's worth of overtime, and they were counting that as his income. So they would have it would have priced this like I would have had to pay 20 grand more than I was paying my freshman year. And then
Sheesh.
the next 2 years were going to be full, like 80 grand a year. And my dad's like, you're going to have to take out a loan. Like you might have to take out two loans and be in debt. I was like, all right, like maybe, but then I was like, well, I also just hit 95. Like, I don't know. I don't really want to be a doctor or a lawyer, or economist, like psychologist, all the things people go to these schools for. And like I was like, all right, I'll go to summer ball and I'll see where it was. So I ended up pitching really well in the Hamptons League, and my coach was like, dude, you like you told me about all the financial stuff, and like you're like, I think you should transfer. So I was like, all right, and so I had to call Coach Whalen. Probably the scariest phone call of my life. I was just telling him like, hey, dude, like I'm not gonna I can't come back. Like I'm not gonna be able to come back. And he was like, "Oh, this is the first time that's ever happened." I said, I'm sorry, coach. Like, I just can't do it." So then I was like, before the portal, just to transfer, and like, I didn't really want to go to a JUCO after, and ended up at K-State. The junior college coach from my hometown got hired as the pitching coach there, and they were like a new staff, the whole thing, and Coach Hughes, the head coach at K State, like he's from the Northeast, so he was like, okay, like come on in, like we'll. Basically, I went on a visit, just like an unofficial visit, checked it out. I was like, yeah, this is really cool. They care about athletics, and school's going to be probably a lot easier. No, not discounting the K State education because it is the Dartmouth of the Midwest, but um I was just like, all right, I'll go. And they're like, you can like we'll see about your eligibility, um, and we'll go from there. But you'll be like a walk on this year or a preferred walk on, so you have a spot, and we'll go from there. So I had a good fall. Ended up not getting my eligibility, so I had to sit out um, the spring semester or the spring season. So I redshirted, and then yeah, the kind of the rest is history.
And your last summer playing summer ball, you played in the Cape Cod League, and you had a little bit of success there in Harwich. Um, I kind of wanted to.
Me.
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry, I was getting a phone call.
Oh, it's all good, man. Happens to the best of us. But I did want to ask. You pitched in the Cape Cod League. You had some success in Harwich. How do you think that kind of gave you? Did it give you any confidence, or did it? I guess what did that do? Just you having some success out there against some of the best hitters in the league. To kind of spring you into your pro ball career.
For sure. So I went the year I sat out, I went and I was kind of up and down, like kind of still figuring out how to pitch. And it was a good learning experience. And then kind of in 2021, I had to pitch good, like it was kind of not necessarily a mandate, but I was like, all right, I have to, go like I have to kind of boost my draft stock, And Stevie, the manager for the Mariners, was like, or Harwich was, he was like, yeah, he's got a Boston accent. We can take you, but you got to be a temporary contract. Like you'll be in the bullpen. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Just give me a spot and get me there. Like I got this. And yeah, going up there and just kind of understanding my role and understanding what I had to do. It wasn't even about the hitters. I was just like, I got to do this for me. And yeah, going into that and doing well there really helped, boost the confidence. Even boosted the confidence when I was okay, that first time around, and knowing that you could do it. And then after that, I was like, all right, like I'm good. Like I got this for sure.
All right, so we're getting to the point of the show where I like to go a little more off the field here. I call it beyond the box score here, and I just want to ask you. I did take a peek at your K-State player profile, so I am curious if this is still true or not. But I'm going to ask, what do you like to do in your free time, and does it involve fishing, surfing, golfing?
It used to when I had free time, but now, now that I have a wife and a dog, it's hanging out with my wife and walking my dog. That's what I really like to do. Um, fishing like was I mean, I wasn't like a country boy by any means, but we'd go to the golf course and fish every once in a while at home, or in California. And obviously going to the beach and stuff. But now it's just hanging out with Sydney and then taking Goose for walks and just hanging out, honestly. That's what I like to do. Like hang out, just not even like Sydney doesn't really know a whole lot about baseball, which is pretty cool. And we just hang out and laugh and do all that. I honestly like cooking a lot now. Kind of into like I'm really into the diet. Like I eat I try and eat 3 pounds of meat a day. So I
Ooh,
really have to grind and figure out how I'm gonna get all that packed in, but usually just ground beef and figure it out.
gosh, man, that's a real carnivore diet there.
Yeah, but I also like I'll have rice and fruit. But yeah, I kind of got strict on my diet because K-State I was not the strictest. I was pretty big. I was like 280 at one point, eating a lot of
Wow.
Chick-fil-A, a lot of Panda Express, so I kind of cut that out. And
Oh man,
yeah,
love some Panda Express, man. Love it. Had to cut that one out going into the wedding season. I don't know why. I was just my wife was like, just grinding, gym and eating well, and I'm over here just like I don't have to look good in the dress. Like so I had to I did it with her, just yeah, had to
for
make her
sure.
feel not like she wasn't alone there. So if you weren't playing baseball professionally, what would you be doing right now?
Well, this is what I would tell the scouts that asked me because I'd say I'd be president of the United States is what I like to say, but honestly, I I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Like I was talking to one of my buddies and he's like, dude, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like he just finished, he just graduated, like with he graduated his master's degree or something, and he's like, dude, I don't even know if I want to do what I like went to school for. Like I'm going to be a real estate agent. I was like, yeah, well, I don't know what I would be doing if I if I wasn't playing ball. So I don't know. I really like I guess I don't think about it that much. And once the Dartmouth thing happened, I just was like, all right, like I'm gonna I'm gonna be a baseball player. Let's see what happens.
Okay. I
Um,
mean, shows you don't have any regrets or anything like that. So you kind of know what you want to do. So I appreciate that answer. Um, all right, we just talked about this, but you're gonna have to get. I know your diet's a little strict now, but I know at one point, like you said, you were a big food guy, and you gave me a couple chains there. I like asking this question though. I need your Mount Rushmore, and it can be a fast food or sit down. So I need your top four restaurant chains.
okay, so Sydney and I we go back and forth, but I'll put them both on there. Longhorn and Texas Roadhouse are definitely on there.
It's a good name.
Um, I would say In-N-Out Burger. I have to do it because of California. And that's what I mean. That's what I grew up eating too. Going to In-N-Out every day. It's some people were like blah blah blah. It's like whatever. It's just part of the experience being from California. And then number four. I mean, it's tough though because there's a lot of good burger places I love out here in the Midwest. Like I love Freddy's.
Oh yeah,
Um, I love Culvers too. I'm gonna lock in with Culvers there at number four. But
it's
I really do like those two steakhouses that are steak chains. I want to call them steakhouses, but they're
You know
good.
what? I have gotten Longhorn Steakhouse almost every single time I've asked this question, and I've never been. Never been to
You
Longhorn.
need to go. You need to go. It's because it's a little different than Texas Roadhouse. This is so we know, being in Manhattan, we knew a couple beef people, and they were like, yeah, Longhorn, they get their beef like locally. So like wherever the chain's at, it's kind of wherever the beef, like the local big beef, I guess. But
Interesting.
that's what they
Okay.
said.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know what? Culver's, I'm Midwest guy, and I always have to tell people that aren't from the Midwest or that haven't lived there before that Culver's is absolutely amazing. I would put that in my top four every time. Um, I, I am just I will do whatever for a butter burger, man. That place is
Yeah. It's so
fantastic.
good. So good.
We talked about this a little bit. I know you said you kind of rooted for the Angels growing up. Who are some of your favorite athletes growing up? And it doesn't have to be baseball.
I would say, so Tiger Woods for sure. My dad and I actually saw because my mom's brother and my dad's brother kind of are in the golf industry, so they got us one of them got us tickets to the U.S. Open in 2008, Torrey Pines, like
Ooh,
to the playoff round. So my dad and I saw Tiger win in 2008. So definitely Tiger Woods, and then Michael Phelps for sure. Um, I just love Michael Phelps. Like he's just the greatest winner ever. And then baseball wise, definitely Vladimir Guerrero, like senior.
senior. Okay.
He was my favorite player growing up. Like I would just stop everything if he was hitting and I'd watch him hit. And I had a big fat head in my room of Vladdy. And yeah, he was my favorite player growing up for sure.
Those Angels teams in the early 2000s and even kind of leaking into like '07, '08 were just so fun to watch, man.
For
It's
sure.
being a kid growing up in St. Louis, obviously big Cardinals town. But man, those Angels teams like, Tim Salmon and Troy Gloss and Vlad, Bobby Abreu, all those guys, man, they were so fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Um, all right, so we're getting to the point. I'm going to wrap this up. I got one last little segment here. It's going to take like 2 minutes just off the top of your head. I call it this or that. I'm going to give you two options, and you got to pick between the two, and
Okay.
no thought required. It might make you defend yourself on some of these answers because if they're in the minority this offseason, which I've gotten a few. So I'm going to start you off with the easiest question of all time because you've already kind of answered this. In-N-Out or Whataburger?
Oh, In and Out, hands down. Like I've had a Whataburger, like the thing is, people always talk about like Whataburger is so good, blah blah blah. And then I'm like, all right, what do you get at Whataburger? And they say the chicken tender sandwich. I'm like, okay, then their burger sucks. Like it's In-N-Out doesn't have a chicken tender sandwich. They just make burgers and fries. Like it's too good. It's good. And my order now is I'll get a Flying Dutchman, so it's like two patties, two cheese, and then I get the grilled onion wrap instead of the bun. And then and I just get patties on the side. So then it's like patty cheese, grilled onion, and then two patties on the outside. And that's kind of what I go for.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on the Whataburger thing. It's like if it's not the best thing on the menu, why are you trying to compare the two? So
Yeah.
I'm with
I
you.
mean, maybe Chick-fil-A and Whataburger then. You know what I mean? Like I just it's always the people from Texas though. They just have a lot of pride and, whatever. Have your Whataburger, whatever.
It's the Texas versus Cali thing. That's why I said it was an easy one for you to start you off. But we'll get a little less, I guess. Um,
Sorry. People are just calling me today. I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is.
oh, you're good, man. I just had a couple more for you, and I'll let you slide. You giving me like 40 minutes of your time, so I do appreciate that.
No, it's all good.
Um,
I don't know what the deal is. Everyone wants to talk to me today. It's like just wait till after Christmas maybe. I don't know.
All right, I got a couple more, and we'll wrap this up here. I know which one you're going to say here, so you don't got to think about this one. If you go on a vacation, would you rather go to a tropical vacation or would you rather go to a European vacation?
I'm going tropical every time. I like working on my tan too. It's obviously tough in Kansas City, but that's also part of my free time also is tanning, but
Okay.
not a whole lot of that, not a whole lot of that here. So
Oh, wait till spring training rolls around and
exactly.
you got it.
Exactly.
Summertime or fall time?
I would say summertime. I like summertime. I mean, fall is great because it's the off season, get some time off, but I love the summer. I like it. I like it nice and warm.
Okay. Sunflower seeds or bubble gum?
I would say sunflower seeds. I don't really eat seeds, but I'm not a big gum, like, I don't know. I think it's because my sister really liked gum growing up, and like, I just, sometimes just hearing her smack that thing around, I'd just be like, all right, like, I don't
Can't
know.
do
I don't
this.
like it. I don't like it.
So I know that you have started quite a few games lately, and you're mostly just a starter now. But I know you've came out of the bullpen a few times in your I guess professional career and I guess career in general. But Which one did you like better, starting or relieving?
I think I like starting better because you get a better like you get routine, you get the routine. You don't have to, every game is basically a day off. You get your work in before, but you're just watching baseball, which is nice. And I like starting a lot. I think I like the chess match a little bit, third time through the lineup. But also relieving is kind of fun. Like it's kind of just like, all right, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna get outs and hopefully get a win.
So, which one would you rather watch, HGTV or History Channel?
History Channel for sure. I
Wow.
like yeah, well my degree that I haven't finished yet was political science, but I actually grew up I wouldn't watch like cartoons or anything. I would either watch Sports Center, the History Channel, or the Military Channel. Those were my top three channels growing up. Other than obviously like once MLB Network kind of came along, that's all I would watch.
I've gotten HGTV every single time. So you are the first History Channel guy. But I'm with you. I like them both. That's why I ask it because I think it's very like I don't know they're kind of even for me. I don't care which one I watch. I like them both. Um,
For sure.
uh, One last question for you here to end it on. This one has been the actually I got two more. They both are the most polarizing ones, especially for a pitcher that I've gotten. Which one would you rather pitch in, a day game or a night game?
Well, what kind of day game are we talking? Like a Tuesday kids game or like a Sunday game in Sacramento in July or what do we? Well, I think I'm saying night. I'm going with the night game. I'm not a big fan of the day game.
I've gotten day games so many times, and then I'll say, okay, what if it's a Sunday day game in like May? Let's say Sunday day game May or a Tuesday night game.
Honestly, I'm still taking the night game. I like the night game. I think it's just I like some people get the like starter anxiety, but I like the build up. It's like slowly builds up, and then I do my warm up, and then I'm ready to go, and then we get going.
All right. Last question here for you before we send it home here. Which way would you prefer to end an inning? On a strikeout or a double play?
Double play,
And
a
why
double
is that?
play. I think it's just it's definitely what is the quote from Bull Durham? Does he say they're fat like strikeouts are fascist or whatever? It's something like that. But I think double ending an inning on a double play is just demoralizing for the other team, and you just feel good because it's just one pitch and you're just out of it. You're like, oh, that works out real nice. It is a pitcher's best friend. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised I haven't got more double plays this offseason. It's been mostly strikeouts. Some guys are like, no, I can give out a good fist pump, like or whatever it is. It's like I worked hard for that, but then it's just like you can only throw one pitch and get out of the inning. Obviously, you had a guy on first, you were in some trouble. Like I don't know. I'm surprised I haven't got more double plays.
No, I think I mean, I love a good double play, especially it's like to end an inning. Nothing feels better. You got everybody involved. You got at least three guys involved. Yeah, feels good.
Oh yeah. Well, Carson, I appreciate you hopping on, and definitely appreciate all the time you've given me. We're going to be looking out for you, obviously, come around spring training time, and obviously with you being a new member of the 40-man roster, we're hoping for the best on whatever happens out of big league camp. But Carson, thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.